Over the last few weeks, senior government officials, including the President and the Deputy, plus Cabinet Secretaries, have been crisscrossing Africa, seeking support for Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed to be elected the African Union Commission Chairperson. The Cabinet Secretary speaks to us about her new ambition and her vision as she seeks this post. Thank you for making time for us, Waziri. First, what really informs this campaign spearheaded by President Kenyatta and the Deputy? What really informs the campaign, and what is Kenya's agenda? Our commitment to the continent. You remember clearly when President Kenyatta announced that Africa was going to be the cornerstone of his foreign policy. And you know that over the last over 3.5 years, we've been pursuing that very aggressively. There is no initiative that has either been launched at the AU or program that has been initiated at the AU that we have not been part of. We have made it known that we are going to walk the talk. We're going to show our commitment in all ways. When there was the outbreak of Ebola in Liberia, you know what we did. And not only did we contribute resources, we also send our young health workers there. But that's just one thing. We have the African Remittances Institute here. We offer to host it. We put also resources at the disposal of the continent. And those are just two. But we've put resources into the peace fund of the African Union. So we are really, really committed to the continent, its objectives, its goals, and obviously the vision that the continent has for itself. And you also talk about the president, who was the one actually spearheading this.
Absolutely.
And he was the one who broke this news first, saying he has submitted your name for this position. Was this his idea, or is it your idea? Did you want to do this, or are you being pushed by the government to do this? Nobody's pushing anybody.
This is a national agenda. And I think we should actually be greatly honored that we've taken it up. For me, it's extremely humbling. It's a rare privilege for your own head of state to not only nominate you, but to be supportive of the campaign and to lead the campaign from the front.
Right.
So I know that there's been talk about me being either pushed out or pushed in or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
So you wanted to do this yourself?
Well, actually, it is, as I said, a national agenda. It's something that we are committed to doing. It's something that we actually also heard from others on the fact that Kenya needed to take the lead and put its nomination forward.
Right.
I'm glad that the nomination was mine.
You're glad that the nomination, so you want to do this then?
Is mine.
Right. And you've talked about that issue of being pushed in or being pushed out. There are no problems at the Foreign Affairs Cabinet, at the Foreign Affairs docket that you've had? No.
I think we've been quite successful at pursuing our foreign policy. We would not have been successful if there were any issues in the ministry.
Right.
So no, there are no issues.
Okay. Let's come to your candidacy then. What do you think you offer for this position? Why should Africa elect you? And what is your vision for Africa then going for this position?
Why should Africa elect me? Well, first of all, this position must be held by an African. And I think on that count, I qualify as somebody who should vie for this position. It should also be something that rotates around the continent. And you know that we have never vied for it. Actually, it's been held mostly by candidates that were either from Central or Western Africa.
Right.
It's never been held by the North. It was held during the days of the Organization of African Unity by Ahmed Salim from Tanzania. But other than that, we have actually never held it. And nothing disqualifies us from vying for it. And so actually the question is a little bit misplaced. The question should be, why haven't we done it before? And why are we doing it now?
But my question is, what is your vision for Africa then?
Well,
what would you offer? That's the question,
my vision actually is anchored on the agenda that the African Summit itself developed for the continent. It's called Agenda 2063. It was adopted in 2013, and now we're actually in the process of implementing the first 10-year plan of action for the continent. And I think in there you find an agenda that, if it had the right drivers, would allow the continent to move to its next level of economic development and growth. And so basically the agenda itself, and I think that one should not even go outside that agenda. One should just aggressively and faithfully implement that agenda. And that agenda touches on everything. It touches on the need to ensure that we create the opportunities that the youth need. It touches on the need for us to have seamless connectivity, whether it's by land, by air, or in the waters, in the seas. It talks to the agenda that we must pursue in terms of just our food security. Agriculture is big in the agenda. So is ICT. So is energy. So is basically removing all the bottlenecks and obstacles that we have for the movement of people, of goods, of services, trade and investment. You know, so there's actually no shortage. I think we have a very comprehensive, inclusive growth agenda that would drive sustainable development on the continent if it has the right leadership. Now, we've had really good leadership. The current chair, who is leaving office in January, has done a really great job launching the agenda, right, and ensuring that it actually took off. So now whoever comes in, and I'm hoping that it will be me, right, will ensure that this agenda is fully entrenched and mainstreamed into the national development blueprints of countries around the continent, of the regional economic blocks, because it actually takes care of all the stakeholders, whether it's the individual governments and the states, member states, whether it's the regional economic blocks, civil society, the youth, Africans, individual, Africans who can participate as stakeholders in the debates, and create the opportunities that need to be
Your qualifications notwithstanding, I mean, and with all due respect to that, we all know about your experience, the qualifications you have. We all know at the end of the day, it's all about geopolitics and individual country or regional interests. ECOWAS, or the regional blocks like ECOWAS, SADC, EAC, you're the candidate, but they also have candidates. What is the strategy of winning from these other regions?
Well, first we need to lobby, and then
which
share, which we are doing. And really, I mean, I think that you've seen, you talked about the fact that we are all out there doing what needs to be done. But apart from lobbying and making people understand what vision you have and what energy, what commitment you bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, I think one has to be passionate about the continent to be able to do this job, right? And one has to also be independent of thought and mind, right? To be able to actually focus only on the agenda of the African Union itself, and not look elsewhere. So if one is able to do that, and is able to do that successfully, then I do not think that there are any obstacles, as long as you've convinced enough countries, and that's 34, right, to be supportive of you. But it is true that we submit our candidatures as regional candidates, right? First national and then regional candidates. So
the question is, where do you think you're getting these votes from? Like you said, you went to get 34 out of 53. Is there a place, or do you have any votes that you can say they are safe in the bag for you? You're going against some. You're going against some formidable candidates. One of them, for example, is Botswana's Pelenomi Venson Moitoi. We know last time during the Bosch polls in July in Kigali, she got 27. That is just 7 short of 34. You're going against these people. Where are you getting these votes from? Where would you say you are?
My hope and my expectation is that I'll get support from across the continent. Because I think that for far too long, we have been divided along very strange and artificial lines, right? Either it was geographical lines, or it was linguistic lines, or it was other lines that were defined by other people, right? And other forces. So I'm really hoping that at the elections in January, for the first time, we're going to break away from these shackles, right? And get support across the continent. Because you're actually going to lead an organization that's continental, right? And if you do not get the support across the continent, then your job is made so much more difficult.
Even later on, whether you get in or not. Okay, I'll try and be a bit more direct with that question. We understand you have the support in the bag of 24 countries so far. Is that a fact?
I have, let me put it this way, because actually I can't give you the figures, right? And an election is an election, as you know. But I can tell you that I have good support. I have good support. I have good encouragement. I think that's probably the better word to use. I have not gone to any country that has told me, you know, offhand that, I'm sorry that you're coming. We don't think that you're qualified for this job. We don't think you can do this job. Actually, on the contrary, wherever we've gone, right? First of all, the fact that the whole country, right, is galvanized, right? I have a lot of support from, just my fellow compatriots, right, that I meet on the streets every day. So that fact that we are all in this together, that it's a national effort, right, has played really well outside. And so we've been encouraged to go forward. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this translates into votes
at the end of the day
in January.
All right. Kenya has been cited, and this is now you individually, because you've been leading Kenya's foreign policy. Kenya has been cited as having flexed its muscles. You've talked about it, Kenya's position in Africa lately, and influencing key positions in Africa. For instance, the ICC and giving sitting presidents immunity. You have been leading Kenya's foreign policy, but you are also accused, and that word has been said by so many pundits, AU being the club of presidents, focusing your attention on the leaders and not really the people of Africa.
What organization is the AU being compared to? Club of presidents? Well, all organizations are clubs of presidents, right? Who goes to the EU?
It's the presidents and the leaders, yes.
Absolutely, and it has, and every organization, right, has layers. Okay, it has layers. So you have the summits, and that is across the board. So and I think that's why I'm kind of taken aback, because every time we talk about the AU, we talk about it as if it's an organization that does not sit right on this planet, that actually is somewhere else where all the rules of the game do not apply, right? That we should be treated differently. And we're actually accepting of that, which actually makes me a little bit angry. We should not be. We should compare ourselves to other organizations.
These other organizations, the problem pundits have with AU is that AU has been very keen when it comes to these matters touching on the leadership. We've not seen a lot being done about the citizens of Africa. That is why AU is being criticized. That's
also not true. We are just hosting a youth conference here, right, of young people of Africa. Those are not presidents. We are hosting women's conferences across the continent, right? We are hosting private sector engagements across the continent. Those are not heads of state. So we do what others do. Actually, there's best practice, right? So we have a summit, and at the summit, of course, it's heads of state will meet. At the Executive Council, of course, it's the foreign ministers will meet.
For the people of Africa, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Absolutely, but governments are elected by their people. That is true for Africa. It's true for all other parts of the world, right?
Right.
And there is no organization where 40 million Kenyans will go and sit in the organization. It doesn't happen anywhere.
It is the people, for example, who get angry when there are problems with, stability or political strife in nations in Africa, and we don't see AU doing a lot.
But it's the same
when you're talking about this being heads of states, obviously it's leaders who meet, but it's for the people, isn't it?
Absolutely.
These people feel neglected when a lot is not being done for them. Nations where there's political strife, people expect AU to be at the forefront and talk about these issues.
You see, AU is an organization like the UN, okay, like the EU. Yeah, so it's a member-driven organization. It's an organization of governments, right? To qualify to join any of these organizations, right? To actually apply to be a member, you must be a government.
Okay.
And you're supposed to represent the interests of your people. And you're supposed to represent that faithfully, right? Faithfully.
Okay, so the point is, going forward, now that you're going for this position, you don't think you need to change that, or this criticism AU has been getting? I mean, you don't think it is justified in any way? Something needs to be changed?
I think one of the things that I would really want to do, right, is ensure that the micro implementation of the AU agenda, right, is simplified, right, to the extent where you can actually sell it at the smallest unit in any country. So I could go to, you know, hopefully as an AU chair, I could go to any village on the continent and talk to them about the AU, and it would be understood what the AU actually does.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the things that I would like to do going forward, to make sure that we can sell the AU, right, among the population, right, on the continent, so that they can have full ownership of this organization. So it's not an abstract organization that's sitting very far away from them.
Okay, but where we will have, we're not hoping that happens, but where we may have, as we've seen before, dictatorship in certain nations in Africa and citizens suffering, should we expect a different approach to this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that the Constitutive Act is very clear, right? It's very, very clear about democracy, about entrenching democracy, about the right of people to participate in their governments, about the need for integrity, for good leadership, for good governance, for the rule of law. All that is in there, right? And the idea, obviously there's an urgent need to make sure that it's fully and properly and faithfully implemented.
This we've talked about before. Already 3 countries in Africa have made their intentions known about withdrawing from the ICC, South Africa, Burundi, the Gambia. What is your position on this, and how would you want, if you are the chairperson of the African Union Commission, how do you want Africa to handle the ICC issue?
First of all, as a chairperson of the Commission, you don't have a country, you have a continent.
Right.
Agreements are signed, ratified, and entered into by individual countries. It's a sovereign act, actually, to enter into these agreements. It's also a sovereign act to withdraw from them. Yeah, it's not something that can be done. If it was going to be done collectively, I think it would probably have already been done.
Right.
You know, so first of all, I think we should begin from just respecting the rights of individual countries to do what they feel they need to do. Because again, as I said, it's a sovereign act of entering, ratifying an instrument or withdrawing from it.
But it's a problem African nations have been talking about, yeah.
Yes. Now, we are still party to the Rome Statute, right? And the court is a creature of the Rome Statute, okay? We have participated in it faithfully. We have cooperated with it. We have, where we have seen shortcomings, right? We have explained what the shortcomings were. We have sought amendments, right? We've put our case clearly. In most cases, we have not been understood, right? We have been pushed away. Right. We have been marginalized, right? But we're still pushing and trying to get that done. But when you actually participate in the Assembly of State Parties, and I think you have attended some of them, the realization that actually Africa is much better represented at the Assembly of State Parties than everybody else who is so concerned about it, about the Rome Statute and the court. And I've said this, and I've said this to many of my friends, that you know, from the north, that look, if you feel so strongly about the ICC, walk the talk, right? First of all, participate in the discussions at the Assembly of State Parties, because maybe then we would find a way forward, because we'd be making these decisions and these discussions, we'd be having them at a different level. Not me sitting there with first secretaries, second secretaries, third secretaries. You know. So something needs to change. That's my feeling. Something needs to change.
In the continent.
The way that we have all handled the ICC, and the way that those that are not from this continent have discussed it, or have handled it, or have participated in it, has been not adequate. It's inadequate.
Are you okay? I'll be a bit direct. Are you a proponent, for example, of the African Court of Justice having the jurisdiction to handle these crimes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the best way to deal with some issues are to have local institutions and local solutions. In any case, that's when you have better ownership. If you have local institutions, you have much, much better ownership. But also, the court, right? The ICC was supposed to be a court of last resort. It wasn't supposed to be a court of first instance, okay? And so you can have as many layers as you wish, right? As long as in the end, if you actually feel that your grievances have not been addressed, right, and the injury you have suffered has not been addressed, you have another, right, another court that you could go to, right? So it was supposed to be a court of last resort.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And that's how we should treat it.
All right. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Very briefly, I want to tackle South Sudan. There's been controversy about Kenya's decision to pull out troops from the peacekeeping mission UNMISS in South Sudan. A UN report cited failure to protect civilians during recent violence in Juba, and the commander of UNMISS was sacked. His name, Lieutenant General John Mogoa Kimani Ondieki, a Kenyan. Why did Kenya then decide immediately after that to withdraw its troops altogether?
First of all, we did not understand how the decision was made to sack a general, right? From Kenya, that we had been requested to nominate, if you like, and to put whose name we were asked to put forward. Secondly, General Dieki reported to his office in Juba on the 10th of June of this year. He actually took up office on the 17th of June. The violence broke out on the 8th of July. There's absolutely, at least not to my mind, no way that you could blame somebody who's been there for 20 days. Right?
Yeah, okay.
When the violence broke out on the 21st day of his being in Juba, he had not been inducted.
But he
had no contract.
Okay. He was the commander of UNMISS, the peacekeeping forces. That is not Kenya only, not the Kenyan peacekeeping force only. I mean, and with all due respect to the Lieutenant General, but it is him that was cited, not KDF, him as an individual. Did you try and find out if there was a problem before you make a decision to withdraw KDF altogether?
Absolutely. There was nobody to talk to.
You tried to reach UN and there's
nobody to talk to. And I am saying this, I want to be on record, there was nobody to talk to. There was nobody to talk to. You cannot make a decision like that, right? When he was appointed, you came to us and you requested us to kindly put forward. And you know why? Because we've participated in more than 40 UN missions. We have sent out more than 30,000 soldiers. Okay? Even just for that record alone and for that history, we were owed the courtesy, right, of being requested, right? Look, come, let's sit around the table. This is what we have. What do you say? One. Two, you cannot sack somebody on the basis of an executive report. Where's the full report? How can that even happen?
So, after this happened, you're saying you took this decision to withdraw troops from South Sudan.
There's nobody to talk to, first of all.
So you tried to talk to them first and you couldn't.
Secondly, you cannot sack a general, right? You cannot sack a general and then expect, right, that those soldiers that were reporting to him, that were from his country, right, would be treated well after that.
But he was the commander of all the forces there.
3 weeks commander, yes, he was.
Of all the forces, not Kenyan only.
Yes, yeah, but we don't have control over the others.
So
we have control
as it is
over our own troops.
As it is now that you have.
And we don't want our troops to be made a laughing stock of. They have participated in over 40 missions. We have over 30,000 troops that have served outside this country. Right. We have a good record. We don't want that record to be destroyed, right, by people who actually do not understand what the terrain looks like in South Sudan. Right,
and with due respect to the record that Kenya has, and it's a good thing, but here you say yourself, you tried to talk to UN, you couldn't. So up to now then, are we to assume that you still don't know why he was sacked? The Kenya government itself does not know whether he was at fault or not.
No, we don't know.
So if you don't know where he was at fault or not, why would you withdraw the troops?
We don't know.
He was an individual.
We don't know why he was sacked. Why he was sacked. And you know what?
So would it have been prudent to know why he was sacked? Before you take such a decision?
At the UN, the UN is not a government. And please stop treating the UN as if it's a super government. It has no supranational powers over any country. It's also a member-driven organization. The UN is a secretariat. It is a secretariat. It cannot make decisions for countries without consulting and involving those countries. It can't. And it should not.
That was the problem at the end of the day.
It should not, yes.
Right. We want to wish you good luck. in your endeavors, of course.
Thank you.
But I'll ask one more question. Erastus Moincha is the current Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Something that some say may be a challenge for you, you know, diversity is needed there. It's Africa Union Commission.
We have not chaired it. I'll answer that very, very shortly.
Deputy Chair.
We have never chaired it.
So you don't foresee a challenge?
Erastus Moincha has served his 2 terms. He has done an amazing job. We're extremely proud of what he's been able to achieve. But Kenya has never chaired the African Union, and we have been nominated to seek the post of the chairman of the African Union Commission.
Right.
That's one. The second one is that I've had so many say, and I saw it in an article today, that President Kagame is going to be the chairman of the African Union Summit come January. Well, that's not even true. That's not even true. So I think that it's also useful to be able to just do a little bit of homework, right, before you put out these things. Because I had a lot of calls of people asking me and telling me, Amina, you really need to tell people that Rwanda is not going to chair the summit, right? And that it's the turn of West Africa. West Africa is going to chair the summit. Central Africa is leaving now in the name of President Deby of Chad. And the next chairperson is going to come from West Africa.
Right.
So there's no East African chairman of the summit.
Right.
We hope that there will be an East African chairman of the African Union Commission.
So when is Moincha's contract expiring then?
Actually, if we had had the elections and the elections
it should have been done.
Absolutely.
So you don't. That's not a challenge at all. Yeah.
January.
Okay. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, thank you so much for making time for us, and we wish you all the best. Maybe next time we'll be talking to you.
Thank you.
You should be then. We'll be talking to you as the African Union Commission Chairperson. Thank you so much, and the best of luck.
Thank you.
Keep talking to us, 22422, and you can talk to us on Twitter, the hashtag Sunday Live. We'll be back after this break.